Nothing is wasted, even the chapters you didn't choose. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They look back at parts of their life and label them as mistakes, wrong turns, lost time. They say things like, I wasted those years. I should have known better. If I could just get that time back. No. But look, that's usually because they're judging the chapter in isolation. When you pull one moment out of the story, it's easy to misinterpret it. But life doesn't happen in pieces. It happens in patterns. Every experience leaves information behind. Every season teaches something, even the painful ones. And the truth is, many of the lessons we rely on most didn't come from our wins. They came from discomfort, from confusion, from moments when things didn't go as planned. Hello, welcome to the Shattered Mindset Podcast, wisdom from life's turning points and defining moments. I'm your host, Belvin Larry, and listen, most of us don't suddenly decide to change our lives. It doesn't work like that. What usually happens first is quieter. There's maybe a restlessness you can't quite explain, a feeling that something no longer fits the way it used to. Not dissatisfaction exactly, just this sense that there's more than this. And the tricky part is that feeling just doesn't come with instructions. No roadmap, no checklist, no guarantee that following it will make sense to anyone else. You see, the hardest part isn't hearing that pull. Most people hear it. The hardest part is trusting it, especially when life looks fine on the outside, because trusting it often means stepping into uncertainty. It means admitting that comfort isn't the same thing as alignment, and it means accepting that the path forward rarely shows itself all at once. If you're listening or watching this right now and something in you feels stirred, not urgency, not panic, just awareness, take note. Something I've learned over time. Life doesn't usually announce its next chapter with clarity, it nudges you. And those nudges don't come as lightning bolts, they come as patterns. A thought that keeps returning, a question that won't leave you alone, a sense that what once motivated you no longer does. For some people, that shows up at work. For others, it shows up in relationships. For others, it shows up in the quiet moments when there's no noise to distract you. And for many people, that's unsettling because we're taught to look for certainty before we move. We're taught to wait until things are clear, to make sure the risk is justified, to have a plan we can explain to other people. But most meaningful transitions even don't work that way. The clarity you're waiting for often comes after movement, not before movement. That's uncomfortable for logical people like me, responsible people who've built their lives on structure, planning, and predictability. And that's exactly why so many people talk themselves out of listening to that inner voice. They reason things like, I should be grateful. It's not that bad. This is just a phase. I'll deal with it later. And at first, those explanations feel reasonable. But over time, something happens. That quiet pull doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under responsibility, routine, and even noise. And the longer it stays buried, the harder it becomes to hear it clearly. The detours that happen in life aren't all distractions, though. They're often instructors. Let me talk from experience for a moment. There were seasons in my life that felt like detours, times when I thought I was moving away from where I was supposed to be. Corporate years, leaving structure, stepping into uncertainty, navigating seasons without a clear paycheck or a defined role. At the time, Some of those moments felt like delays, like setbacks, like I was off track. And when you're in those moments, it's easy to question yourself. You start asking things like, did I make the right decision? Am I behind? Should I have stayed where I was? Okay, those are really honest questions. But looking back, I can see something I couldn't see then. Those weren't distractions, they were preparation. They taught me how to think differently, how to lead without relying on a title, how to make decisions without a safety net, how to stay grounded when certainty disappears. Here's the thing, sometimes the detour is where you learn what you'll need for the destination. But you can't see that while you're in it. When you're in the middle of a detour, all you see is disruption, inconvenience, uncertainty. Look, it's only later when you look back that you realize the detour was actually shaping you. Nothing is wasted, even the chapters you didn't choose. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They look back at parts of their life and label them as mistakes, wrong turns, lost time. They say things like, I wasted those years. I should have known better. If I could just get that time back. No, no, no. But look, that's usually because they're judging the chapter in isolation. When you pull one moment out of the story, it's easy to misinterpret it. But life doesn't happen in pieces, it happens in patterns. Every experience leaves information behind. Every season teaches something, even the painful ones. And the truth is, many of the lessons we rely on most didn't come from our wins. They came from discomfort, from confusion, from moments when things didn't go as planned. You don't always learn from those lessons in real time. Sometimes you're just trying to survive the season you're in. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of reflection until much later. But that doesn't make the lesson any less real. It just means the meaning shows up later. And there's a cost of ignoring that pull. Let's talk about this. And know that there's no judgment here, okay? See, I met people who ignored that inner nudge. Sometimes I did too. Not because they were lazy, not because they lacked courage, but because they chose safety over alignment. They stayed where they were because it was predictable, because people depended on them, because walking away felt irresponsible. You know what I mean? And for a while, that choice even worked. They paid the bills, they kept things stable, they did what was expected of them until one day it didn't. What I've noticed is this, ignoring the pull doesn't make it go away, it just turns into regret later. It shows up as frustration you can't explain, a sense of being disconnected from your own life, a feeling that you're showing up but not fully present. And eventually, a quiet question starts to surface, is this really it? Now, that question doesn't mean something is wrong with you, it means something in you is asking for attention. And when that question goes unanswered long enough, it starts to weigh on you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. This is the heart of what I want you to hear, okay? You don't connect the dots looking forward. You connect them when you finally slow down and look back. Those dots are the experiences, choices, relationships, and seasons that didn't make sense at the time, the moments you couldn't explain while you were living them. What once felt random starts to make sense. What once felt unnecessary reveals its purpose. What once felt painful shows you what it gave you. Those are the dots. But here's the part that matters most. The line only appears after the dots are honored, after movement, after engagement, after you are willing to step forward without the full picture. That's why staying stuck rarely brings clarity. Clarity comes from participation, from being in the process, from letting life teach you while you're moving, not waiting. Most people don't lack intelligence, they don't lack discipline. They're just waiting for certainty in a place where certainty doesn't live. If you're watching or listening to this and something inside you feels unsettled, don't rush it. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to blow up your life. You don't need to have all the answers, but you do need to pay attention. Honor that nudge. Get curious about it. Notice when it shows up and what it's pointing toward. Ask yourself, what keeps resurfacing? What feels out of alignment? What am I pretending not to notice? Because the journey doesn't shout, it whispers. And the people who learn to listen to that whisper tend to look back one day and realize something important. Nothing they went through was random. Nothing was wasted. And every step, even the uncertain ones, carried them closer to who they were becoming. So, if this conversation resonated with you, let it sit. Reflect on it. Notice what keeps coming back to your mind after this episode ends. And if you found value here, leave a comment, subscribe, like, and share it. It helps more than you know. So listen, until the next time, keep adapting, keep evolving, and keep reaching for those new horizons. I'll see you the next time on the Shattered Mindset podcast. Take care, take charge, and God bless.